How's it going, everybody? My name is Snazzy Patty, and today we are checking out a video by Last Brain Cell. This is called What If NATO Invaded the United States? I'm pretty interested. I hope you guys are, but as always, the link to the original video will be down in the description below. But without further ado, let's lock in.
September 2025, Atlantic Ocean. Operation Iron Reprisal is already underway. NATO has launched a full-scale strike on the United States. 31 allied nations trying to breach the
Damn, there's 31 nations? 31 countries or whatever inside of NATO? Not including America? So, like, what, 32? Damn, I didn't realize that. I thought there was like 16, 22, somewhere around there.
most heavily defended homeland on Earth. It didn't start with a single shot. It started with a fracture. After pulling out of its European bases, the United States quits NATO and cuts off all access to shared systems. Satellites, intelligence feeds, GPS, gone. So, NATO moves fast. The goal isn't occupation, it's disruption. Break U.S. command, disarm key forces, and force the U.S. to the table before things spiral out of control. Doing that means crossing 3,000 miles of ocean without American logistics, satellites, or airlift. It's the most ambitious coalition strike in modern history.
I mean, that is pretty much like the only way you would be able to take us down. You just got to bring the fight to us, and that is our biggest like benefit is our location. We are so far away from all these other major powers of the world that it just logistically is too ambitious of an of a tactic to try to bring the amount of supplies, soldiers, equipment, all that across the ocean. It just and with and if the satellites aren't down or whatever, and we have our radars, we have our ships and helicopters, all our jets still working, you're not getting past us. You'd have to take out our our technology, EMP our shit, like in modern warfare.
Here's the twist. They know each other. They trained side by side for decades. Now they're using that playbook against each other. And sure, NATO's a defensive alliance, but this is a sandbox scenario, and that line's already been crossed. I know it's unlikely, but I just wanted to explore how it might go. So,
Oh yeah, no, this is purely for fun. The whole point of NATO is that we're in a pact. If one person breaks off and goes on the attack against us or whatever or something like, it just wouldn't happen. First of all, trying to get 31 countries in agreement to attack America, a lot of them would be too scared to do it, I feel like.
let's walk through it. The mission is simple on paper. Force a U.S. surrender without triggering mass civilian casualties. No nuclear weapons, no leveling cities. Just speed, pressure, and surgical strikes. NATO gives a 96-hour warning. Evacuation protocols go active. Troops mobilize. Entire naval groups deploy under full radio silence. But something becomes clear almost immediately. Without U.S. support, NATO is flying half blind. As I said, there's no GPS, at least not the American kind. They're stuck with Europe's Galileo system, slower, easier to jam, and never tested in combat. It's not that they have nothing, it's that what they have can't match what they just lost. There's no US satellite intelligence, live drone.
So they hurt themselves by doing that. I mean, not as severely as we are hurt by that, but they also put themselves at a somewhat disadvantage than what they were originally at.
Feeds, or global logistics network. And much of NATO's top gear, like F-35s, Blackhawks, and HIMARS, still depends on US parts, software updates, and deep maintenance you can't do in the field. Even without US networks, NATO's F-35 can still share data with each other. But they've lost the American intel web that fuses satellites, sensors, and radar into a single picture. And with no spare parts coming in, every flight takes a toll on the fleet.
Yeah, man, we have our fucking toes dipped in everything, man. Like, I don't mean to sound like how do I want to put this? I don't want to sound narcissistic of our or like very like prideful, I guess. I mean, I'm prideful. I'm glad I live in America. It's a lot better than a lot of other countries in this world. You know what I mean? But we are the center of the world, unfortunately. Everything that happens in America, the whole, not the whole world, but they take note. We have no privacy. You know, if you ask me what's going on in other countries of the world, I have no idea really. You know what I mean? Besides a couple other ones that are main headlines right now. But for majority of the countries, I have no idea anything about them. Yet almost every country knows about. There's countries I've never heard of. Yet everyone's heard of America. You know, so we're just too big of a global powerhouse. Same with like China. You know, their toes are dipped in everything too.
Still, they push forward, because if they hesitate, the window closes, and they know it. Staging begins in Greenland, Iceland, the Azores, and Canada. Troops
Yeah,
deploy
like what the hell is the Azores? I've never heard of that. I mean, maybe other people have, and I just sound really dumb right now, but I've never heard of that.
to remote airstrips. Cargo ships are loaded with fuel, ammo, armor, and supplies. Convoys stretch across the Atlantic, tightly packed and heavily protected. The invasion is split into 3 coordinated thrusts. The main landing force hits the Virginia coast, targeting Naval Station Norfolk, the largest naval base on Earth. A second force strikes the Florida Panhandle, aiming to capture Eglin Air Force Base and split U.S. coastal defense. A third push moves south from Canada into Maine and Michigan, using European troops stationed under joint training programs. Convoys form in the Atlantic, NATO destroyers, leased tankers, and amphibious assault ships escorting wave after wave of cargo vessels.
Okay, wait, hold on though. I might be lost here. All right, I might have missed something. But even with our satellites and all this stuff down, wouldn't our equipment like once we actually can see them, wouldn't it still work? Like yes, maybe not our drones necessarily or anything that's like controlled like with cameras like that. But if you put some men on a goddamn carrier, bring it to the coast, like we would know by this point that we're under attack or like something's gonna happen if our shit gone down. We would know instantly, right? So we would start bringing our stuff back to our country, right? All of our bases, all they would start rushing back. Border patrol and National Guard would get sent out like crazy all across our coastlines and all that. Wouldn't we still like as soon as they get close enough to where we see them and they start firing like, wouldn't it be like D-Day, right? They'd have like they would lose a lot. Like yes, they might be able to beach land and get like a placeholder or whatever, a foothold onto the mainland. But to do that, even with our satellites down, would still cost them so many resources, people's lives, etc. I might be wrong though. I might have missed something, like I said.
They rely on Galileo for navigation and a patchwork of national satellites for intel. But without US ISR, intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance, they're operating with degraded precision. Missile strikes are less accurate, reaction time is slower, coordination gets messy. And if this doesn't work fast, it doesn't work at all. Before sunrise, the East Coast lights up. Cruise missiles slam into American air bases from Virginia to Georgia. RAF Typhoons and French Rafales escort NATO paratroopers onto major highways. They come in behind a wave of missiles, buying them 30 minutes of chaos before U.S. jets take control again. Special forces raid a U.S. missile site in North Dakota. Helicopters hit beachheads near Norfolk. The fleet pushes in low and fast. The objective: seize the port, crater the docks, and open a corridor for follow-on armor. It's a bold move, but the U.S. reacts instantly. Patriot missile batteries intercept the first waves of missiles. Aegis destroyers pick off incoming threats.
Yeah, okay, here we
F-22
go.
Raptors streak into the sky over Virginia.
There we go. America. Hell yeah, man. We got the power. I'm sorry, but I don't see this being a thing. First of all, to even get to this point would require months, if not years, maybe even decades of planning and other countries coming together and actually agreeing with one plan all together. Not like I guess that would be possible. It would just take a lot of different dominoes to fall into effect.
Virginia. Within hours, the 82nd Airborne locks down critical roads. The 101st lifts out of Fort Campbell, Kentucky. Marines from Camp Lejeune deploy mobile anti-ship missiles along the coast. One French ship falls behind, exposed. A U.S. submarine, positioned in the Atlantic,
Bro, we have
takes
the
the
best
shot.
navy.
Hundreds of troops never make it to the beach. NATO hits the coast, but they're already bleeding. From inland positions, U.S. HIMARS launch GPS-guided rockets into landing zones. Apache helicopters pick off stalled vehicles. Coastal batteries fire naval strike missiles, long-range precision weapons that slam into NATO's escort ships. Amphibious transports take direct hits. Troops hit the water. Armor sinks before it ever rolls.
That's what I'm saying. Like, yes, even if we don't have the best accuracy or reaction time anymore because you know, we don't have our systems up. Humans are still, we're pretty decent. I mean, we controlled war without this. We still dominate when it comes to not America, but like we don't need this to be effective in war. Spartans didn't have any of this, and they were an elite soldiers. Like the Ottoman Empire. The UK took over. Well, the British Empire took a large, significant chunk of the world under their control, like of colonies and stuff like that, way before we had satellites and any of this stuff. Before we just had discovered cannons and gunpowder, pretty much, right? So, and you got these big ships. They're not fast. Even if we miss one or two, we'll eventually get the trajectory right and land, and we'll take down the ships. You know what I mean? The planes and helicopters would be a different thing. That's literally just up to who has the better pilots, I feel like. I mean, NATO would still have their shit running, I feel like. Or not feel like, but like they have their shit running. So I'm assuming, I don't know, I'm assuming that they would have locked on missiles, guided missiles still available on their helicopters, their planes, locked on ship, heat seeking, whatever. So they would still have the advantage. That's where their main advantage would be the air. Land wise, they don't know American geography like us. Even if they know our states and countries, most of them don't, or not countries, but states and borders and our geography. We know it better. That's just we're the home field. That's how any country. Look at Vietnam. The Vietnamese, they had the home field advantage. You know what I mean? And that like significantly helped them in the Vietnam War.
B 1 bombers, flying from Dyess Air Force Base in Texas, well outside NATO's strike radius, launch long range anti ship missiles into the convoy. And American armor? It's on the move. Abrams.
Not to mention, I don't know, he might mention this at some point, right? But we have we have more guns than we have a population. Like it's in like a 3-to-1, like guns to people, right? You know how like I'm not saying a lot of us. I feel like a lot of us would become, little pussycats or whatever, and hide or try to run away or evacuate, whatever the case is. I feel like a decent chunk of the American civilian population is going to stick back, load up, and fight. I mean, this country is built on cowboys and a bunch of drunk ex-British and French people that fought the British Empire and managed to win just by pure determination. It's built into us.
Tanks, Bradley fighting vehicles, Paladin artillery, all rolling in from Georgia, Kentucky, and Texas by rail. The U.S. uses its own domestic infrastructure to full advantage. Within 24 hours, heavy armor is moving faster than NATO drones can track it. That's what interior lines gets you. The defenders move faster, fight closer, and resupply easier. NATO doesn't have that, and now it shows. Then the cyber war begins. NATO hits hard, East Coast infrastructure buckles, GPS signals are spoofed, commercial drones veer off course, power outages hit parts of Virginia and New York, rail networks glitch, 911 systems flood with fake emergency calls, banks stall, panic spreads fast. But the US had practiced this exact scenario. Cyber Command isolates infected networks in hours. Targeting data is restored through backup satellite links. Military networks switch to hardened communication lines and dark fiber, buried cables that can't be easily intercepted or jammed. Then the US fires back. Undersea cables linking Europe begin to fail. Galileo's satellite signals degrade near the battlefield. NATO's drone feeds go dark. Spy satellites stop updating. European command centers lose contact with forward units. Targeting info goes stale.
Hell
Suddenly,
yeah.
US cruise missiles are hitting exactly where NATO troops are hiding. Fuel depots erupt. Artillery is knocked out mid-reload. Columns stall in exposed terrain. The cyber war doesn't buy NATO an advantage. It speeds up their collapse. But speed isn't NATO's only enemy. Now the terrain turns against them. The Virginia coastline is flat, marshy, and full of choke points. Armor can't maneuver. Supply convoys bunch up.
That's another thing too, right? America compared to other countries, like We are massive, bro. Some of our states are bigger than countries, right? Texas is insanely huge. And because we are such a big country that like has such a huge landmass, we have so many different types of geography and like habitats or landscapes and all these different types of things. We have marshes, redwood forest, deserts. We have winter mountain. All of these things. You can't just like it everywhere you go. It's like you have to be prepared for something different.
Job. The Appalachians form a wall to the west, forcing any inland push into predictable paths.
Bro, them soldiers come to the Appalachians. They don't know about the Native American folklore, man. They don't know about that whistle. If they hear that whistle, man, they're gonna fuck around and whistle back, and they're done. The whole squad of soldiers gone, vanished, and we ain't even ever gonna know why or how. Man, you don't fuck around with the Appalachians.
The Midwest is wide open, but that just makes it easy for US bombers and drones to hunt exposed columns. Bridges are blown, rivers flood, engineers crater roads. Meanwhile, America's road and rail system is fully operational. Fuel, ammo, food, everything flows inland without delay. Troops redeploy from coast to coast in under 72
That's
hours. Even states like Colorado and Arizona begin sending units east, crossing an untouched national network. NATO, on
bro. We are just this is just making me like happy to be an American, man. I feel powerful right now.
the other hand, depends on a handful of ports and a few exposed convoys. Every ship they lose cuts deeper. Every delay stacks. By day 4, US submarines are sinking several cargo ships per night. The psychological toll, it's hard. Crews abandon tankers mid-ocean. Convoys scatter. Supplies slow to a trickle. NATO holds pieces of Norfolk, a few airfields in Florida, some ground near the Canadian border. But they've failed to secure a deepwater port, and without that, there's no resupply, no armor pipeline, no fuel deliveries. Just fragments of a plan collapsing in real time. The US floods the interior with National Guard units. Brigades from Pennsylvania, Ohio, and Tennessee reinforce air bases and armor divisions. Within days, the defenders outnumber the invaders, and NATO's running dry. Their
I say it just takes too much time and too much money and resources to send more over to America, man. And more than half of it's getting destroyed. It's a complete waste of your time, money, resources, human lives, everything, man. This is just. And yeah, the morale. People don't understand how important the morale of your soldiers are in combat, man. If your soldiers don't believe they can win, you're not gonna win. They're gonna give up, they're gonna surrender. They're gonna be in their head thinking, worried about their death, da 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 da, all this extra shit, man. It's why your commander, having a good leader, is so important in combat.
F-35s are low on missiles they can't replace. Their tanks need diesel. Their artillery shells are almost gone. And the beach is still a bottleneck. Because the US isn't just holding the line, it's grinding them down. Then the counteroffensive begins. 3 full divisions, 1st Cavalry, 3rd Infantry, and 1st Armored, surge toward Norfolk. The 82nd Airborne secures the northern flank. Marines dig in across the south. HIMARS batter NATO's rear. A-10s and Apaches clean up what's left in between. It's the largest mechanized battle on US soil in over a century. French Leclerc and German Leopard 2 tanks fight hard. British paratroopers attempt to push back to the sea, but air support is gone. Communications are jammed. Logistics are finished. There's nowhere left to run. The NATO beachhead collapses. Florida falls. The northern push pulls back into Canada. Hundreds of NATO troops are cut off and captured. Some surrender on live feed. At sea, the HMS Prince of Wales takes a direct missile hit. The Charles de Gaulle is disabled by a drone swarm. NATO's remaining ships retreat, and US submarines chase them across the Atlantic. The war is over, and there's no question who won. The United States holds the field decisively. NATO's invasion collapses under its own weight. Their reliance on American tech backfires. Their supply lines fail. Their timing slips, and geography finishes the job. Was victory ever possible? Maybe,
Hell
but
no.
only if they'd seized a port, grounded US air power, and forced a surrender in under a week. Instead, they lost the fleet, then the nerve, then the war. Now, imagine if the invaders weren't NATO, but some of the greatest armies in history attacking a modern US base. Check it
Man, even the greatest armies back then would get destroyed by some of the weakest armies today just because of guns. People, bro, that's just stupid, man. Come on, man. Automatic weaponry, tanks, bombs. You think of Spartans? You think of 300, 5,000 Spartans running up with their little swords and shields is gonna do anything when I fucking get in my Abraham and just let off a cannon to doom? Hell no. They're all just gonna and their dumbass are all gonna be cuddled up together and stuff because of their shield wall. Oh, that's easy money. Come on, man. But anyways, that was a good video. Man, this is why you don't fuck with America. Like, yes, we are a fucked up country. We have a lot of issues. Don't get me wrong. We are far from perfect. But when it comes to the military, we put all of our money into it and we are some paranoid people, okay? We don't want any problems. And if we do, we're gonna solve them. It's that simple. But anyways, man, if you enjoyed this video, I hope you did. I did, definitely. Make sure to like, subscribe, put on those post notifications. Make sure to check out the original video, of course. And as always, stay safe, stay snazzy, and stay blessed.